Hello and welcome to the Real Life Alexa channel. My name's Alexa. This is Kane, and this is our real life. Today I wanted to take a moment to talk about allyship, and it is currently Pride Month, so June every year. And I thought it was important, I think it is important to identify ourselves as allies and to be vocal and to use our privilege and our voice to speak when others have been silenced and to speak for them or with them or support them, whatever we can do. So to start, I did want to read the definition of allyship from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And then I also have a second definition that I think is a little more easy. It's not quite as dictionary style definition as the Merriam-Webster dictionary, obviously. So allyship in the Merriam-Webster dictionary is listed as the state or condition of being an ally, so supportive association with another person or group. Specifically, such association with the members of a marginalized or mistreated group to which one does not belong. I also found this definition. So allyship refers to the actions, behaviors, and practices that leaders take to support, amplify, and advocate for others, especially with individuals who don't belong to the same social identity groups as themselves. I thought that this was a really, really nice definition of allyship because anyone can be a leader. You do not have to have a title to be a leader. If you are doing something that inspires others to also take that action, that's a form of leadership. Hopefully, we are able to use that kind of influence for positive change and to help support people who have been marginalized, who have been hurt, who have been silenced, and to move that forwards. I really appreciate in that definition where it is the three words to support, to amplify, and to advocate. So these are really powerful actions. These are verbs. These are actions that we can take. So we can support others. We can show our support by simply saying, I'm here for you, right? And being there. We could show our support by speaking out publicly. We can multiple ways to show our support, but those showing up and being there for someone is probably one of the most powerful ways you can support another person. Think about when you have been struggling in your own life and someone has come along and supported you. What was the most powerful time that someone has supported you? When I think back on it, it's not when they've said something or done something for me. It's genuinely been when I have simply been in the same room as that person and they have spent that time with me. An example is when I lost my second female cat. She was 17. I had, it was time. I took her to the vet. I stayed with her. She essentially had a stroke in the middle of the night, so I did call the emergency vet. Did not get much sleep. Got up late, went to work late, and after work, one of my best friends was like, you should come over for dinner tonight. And I literally have a picture, and I was just sitting in the recliner in their living room with her son in one arm, her daughter was giving me a hug in the other, and we were just sitting there. We weren't really, I think we had music or a TV show on or something. We weren't really talking, but she was there, and that was support. And that was just a very powerful example for me of being cared about. Hi, yes, I love you too. Oh my goodness, look how cute you are. Hi. Too much talking to the camera, apparently. He wants some loves tonight. He's a snuggle bug. He loves having hugs with his mom. So then to amplify, I think that being able to show how valuable people are and to amplify their voice and their message and their ideas and to give them the credit where that credit is due, that can be so life transforming in so many ways. We all need, excuse me, I have an itchy nose because of this one. Not a single person on this planet has done everything alone. It's impossible. And it doesn't mean that we don't work hard, but it means that someone has taken a chance on us. Someone has taken a chance on us, given us a job, given us, maybe you're an entrepreneur, someone's given you startup money, whether that's through having a job and that person taking a chance on you and you saving your money, whether it's going for a loan, whether it's a family member, whatever it is, someone has taken a chance on you, given you an opportunity, and you've taken that opportunity and you've run with it, right? And all of us, every single one of us has to be given a chance with other people. That is how we are able to move forward as people in society, in the community that we're in. And so amplifying people's voices in a work setting, it can be as simple as, oh, have you heard about so-and-so's idea? They came up with it. I think we should listen to them and talk through it some more. If someone's had an idea and a few weeks later someone else brings that idea up, oh, that's right, so-and-so said it a few weeks ago and we said we'd come back to it. This is great. I'm glad you brought it back up. Let's talk about it, right? It can be outside without them even knowing. It can be in a room saying, I think you should consider this person for this project. Like, they'd be really great at it. It would challenge them. It would stretch them. It would be a great opportunity for them, professional development. There may be people who've done that for all of us, and we never know what they've said or who has convinced someone to take a chance on us. But it leads back to supporting and people taking a chance on us. So, and then to advocate ties into the other two, really saying these people deserve good things, kindness. They deserve to be heard. They have deserve basic human rights. We need to respect their existence, which is not the same as necessarily agreeing with all of the things that a person does or says or believes. But if they're human, they have basic human rights and they're worthy of basic human respect. And advocating for that and speaking up. And when you see something wrong, saying it's wrong. And it can be very, very scary to challenge yourself, to listen to stories from people who are from marginalized communities, to understand that all of the things that you've gone through in your life, there are certain things that are not obstacles. I think I've mentioned this before, but privilege is not just a binary thing like I'm white, other people aren't, therefore I'm privileged because I'm white. Privilege is that my skin has not been the barrier in my life, but race is not the only barrier. Gender, sexuality, those are not the only things. Privilege is much more of a complicated web. For example, there's this chart, and I have it. It's actually on a piece of paper. It's not a digital version, but it had, I want to think it was like a pie, and you gave yourself 1 if you didn't have something and 3 if you did. And there were like 12 sections, and it was like, were your parents married, divorced, or never married in the first place? Did your parents own your own home when you were a kid? Did they rent it, or did you suffer homelessness? So 1 or 2 or 3. And the higher the number is, once you've added all of these things up, the more barriers you've had. And the lower your number is, the less barriers you've had, which means you have had more privilege by not having those barriers. And I like this idea because I don't think many things in life are binary, black white, there's two choices and that is it. I don't think that's true in life. I think that there's so much ever-changing gray areas in our lives that can influence who we are, what we do, how we're able to do it, and where we go in life. So when you start to think about all of the things that have helped you in your life and the things that have maybe held you back in your life, and you start thinking of it much more in this broad sense. So my parents are divorced. We did own our own home. I am not of the majority religion in my area. I am white, so that one was not a barrier. I speak, my primary language is English, and I live in an primarily English-speaking country. I never had language be a barrier for me. Well, you would think that British English, and American English would not mean there's any barriers, but there actually are, and there are cultural differences. So the fact that I do not live in the country that I was born and predominantly raised in can actually bring cultural barriers. And I have found that I will say things, there's phrases you use that mean one thing in England and mean different things over here. And it might be a minor difference, but when the key to communication is to have someone understand what you're saying to them, and they are understanding it differently because of those differences, it can actually be a barrier in a way. So I'm certainly not saying that it is a huge barrier in my life, but it's definitely not the same as living in the same area my whole life, speaking the same language, the same idioms and phrases and meanings, and there are differences. So it's sort of like a miniature little introduction to what people who have English as a second language must be trying to deal with. And as I try to learn other languages, having to start thinking about those, and you can kind of see how difficult it would be to not have your primary language be the one that is the majority language of the area you live in. All this being said, we can practice being allies. We have to make sure that we stand up and that we are honestly, with curiosity and with kindness and openness and vulnerability and care, really listening to people when they tell us their truth of who they are, not judging it, not trying to say, well, that's right or wrong, just accepting it and saying, okay, that's who you are. That's great. You don't have to be like everyone else. You don't have to be like me. By not being defensive when someone calls us out on something that is potentially hurtful or offensive or anti-ally, when you're trying to be an ally, if someone gives you feedback and it's genuine feedback, I don't mean, sometimes people think, well, I'm just being honest, and they use that as a way to be very cruel, and that's not constructive. That's not led with kindness. A lot of the times in my experience, it has then been used to justify picking on everything they just don't like about someone, regardless of whether it even matters if they like it or not, right? It makes no difference in their life. They're still going to call it out. But being open to actual constructive feedback and understanding that, sort of as I was saying before, when I use a certain phrase, if it means something positive in England, but it means something not so great over here, and they take it like I'm being like, oh, that's not a good thing, listening and saying, that I did not realize that that's the meaning of this phrase over here. I can't think of a phrase off the top of my head right now, but I know this kind of thing has come up in my life, saying I didn't realize that was what the meaning was over here. It certainly was not what I was intending to communicate to you. I was trying to communicate a positive message, and I will take this feedback and I will maybe come up with a different phrase to use in future. It's as simple as something like that. And even more powerful can simply be listening. I hear you. I know what you're saying. It must be very important to you, and I thank you for telling me. These kinds of really openness to listening and thinking and genuinely being curious about what people are saying and thanking them for sharing with you and giving them that space and that building that trust that they will have to come and talk to you. None of us are perfect, right? So being open, being honest, being able to say, oh yeah, no, I made a mistake. I'm going to try and fix it. How am I going to fix it? Very, very powerful actions that we can take. And again, this is Pride Month, but allyship is not just for Pride. So these tips and tricks, this sort of discussion that I've had here today, it can be used in pretty much any social setting. When you're with any people, you can always use these kinds of tips and tricks. And I hope that I am putting these into practice. I try very hard to. And I know that I have times when I fail, but I also know that there are people who aren't even trying to understand other people. And so that when I see that, it reminds me of how far I've come, how far I have left to go, and how powerful and rewarding for me it is to learn about others. Sorry, I still have cat fur on my nose. It's driving me nuts. Side note, I was getting uncomfortable and my brain decided to get me out of that situation, so to speak, by focusing on my itchy nose, I guess. It's very powerful to be heard and be understood, and it's very powerful to hear and understand others. And we have a fresh, even after we've literally, the moment after we've done something that isn't up to what we would like our standards to be, we have an opportunity to do better immediately. We're always given opportunities to do better. And I'm on this journey. I'm still learning. I will never know it all. It's impossible to know everything. But I'm really excited to see how far I have come. And hopefully this has given some food for thought and inspires you to be just a little more curious. Curiosity is the key. Wanting to learn is key. And there's so much beauty and joy and camaraderie and just fantastic things out there if we do stay curious and we keep learning and exploring. Okay, I'll leave a link to an article on 7 ways to practice active allyship. It's from the Harvard Business Review, and I'll leave the link to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary for that definition as well. So thank you for being here. As always, like, subscribe, drop a comment, and be kind to yourself.